So we are reading Hands of Light by Barbara Brennan. We are on chapter 6, page number 37 of the book and page number 46 of the PDF. Wait, Shipya, you have to unmute.
I'm unmuted.
Okay, go ahead.
When I...
No, shuru se.
Chapter 6, the Universal Energy Field. When I, as an adult, again began to see the life energy fields, I became skeptical and confused. I had not yet found the literature referred to in the previous 2 chapters, nor had I received any of the guidance referred to in chapter 3. Of course, as a scientist, I knew about energy fields, but they were impersonal and defined by mathematical formulae. Were they really there? Did they have meaning? Was I fabricating my experiences? Was it wishful thinking, or was I experiencing another dimension of reality that had meaning, was orderly, and was very helpful in understanding my present life circumstances, and in fact, life as a whole?
So now this is a dilemma that most people face actually, in the sense that again and again we keep talking about experience and then knowledge, right? So now when she was young, she was able to see the fields, but she did not have knowledge and information about what they were. So her experience was empty. Now, as an adult, when she started again seeing the fields again, when she went into a higher state of consciousness, there was a skepticism because the knowledge that she had was not totally concurring with the experience that she was having. So there was skepticism in her. Till the knowledge and experience started to merge, it doesn't become wisdom, right? So basically, that's the game that we are playing. We want the experience and the knowledge to make it wisdom.
I'd read about the miracles of old, but they all happened in the past to someone I didn't know. A lot seemed hearsay and fantasy. The physicist part of me needed observation and control to prove these phenomena, real or unreal. So I began collecting data, that is, personal experiences, to see if they fit into some logical form or system, as the physical world does. I believed with Einstein that God doesn't play dice with the universe.
So again, what happens now today, if you know someone and that person tells you, no, this is an experience that I had, so it becomes more real for you than if you are reading about an experience of someone who you don't know, right? So it's about hearing something from the horse's mouth. Basically, that's the game. Now, the other thing that she says here, that Einstein said, God doesn't play dice with the universe, right? What does this imply? We are talking about now the chaos theory that we are reading about, we read about in Power versus Force, that everything seems there is chaos, but underneath the chaos, there is always order, right? So over here, what he's meaning to say is God knows what he is doing. He is not gambling. He is not playing the dice with the universe. There is an order that is there on how the universe actually functions.
I found the phenomena I observed to be very much like the world with which I was familiar, well ordered in form, shape, and color, and also clearly based on cause and effect relationships.
So now we are living in the Newtonian world where we want to see this happens is the result of this, right? That is the way that we operate in this world. That is why as a scientist, she wanted things to be real. She wanted that if A plus B is equal to C, then every time A plus B is equal to C. This is what she was looking for, even in the energy field world.
But there was always a little more there, always something left unknown, unexplainable, or mystery. I came to realize how boring life would be without the unknown mystery always dancing before us as we move through what? Time and space.
So
That
now
is
again, so what is she saying here? That how much ever we may learn, how much ever we may get to know stuff, there will always be something more. And this is what we are experiencing even when we are getting into the expanded states, that there is always something more. So our conception keeps getting more and more refined. Our perception gets more and more refined, but ultimately something more is always there.
that is how I used to think. Now I see that we move through personal experiences of reality thinking, feeling, sensing, being, merging, individuating, only to merge again in an infinite dance of transformation as the soul forms, grows, and moves toward God.
So, what is our job here? Our job here is simply to learn, grow, be motivated, and move towards God, move towards wholeness, move towards wellness. This is the exact same thing which is said in Vedanta also. The only thing that we are here for is to find freedom. Robert Monroe also talks about finding freedom. And when will we have freedom? When all that is unknown becomes known, then there is true freedom. And when will that happen? When we merge with the Godhead. Okay, so everything that we are doing, every thought that we are having, ultimately must lead us to that goal of merging with God.
What I observed correlated with the many esoteric books written on the subject of the aura and energy fields. The colors correlated, the movements, shapes, and forms correlated. Most of what I read, I usually read after making my observations, as if that unseen hand made sure I first experienced a phenomenon before reading about it, so that I couldn't project any mental image I might form from my reading.
So now this is very important, right? So she's having an experience and then reading about it so that that experience becomes real. And it is not colored by the perception or the viewpoint that someone else had in that particular experience, right? So now this becomes important. That's why opening ourselves up to experiencing things becomes so important.
I now firmly believe in this experience of guidance, which moves through and permeates my entire life like a song, ever carrying me on to new experiences, new lessons as I grow and develop as a human being.
So again, what is happening? There is always guidance. And the moment that we connect with the guidance, okay, we allow the guidance to come through. We start saying yes to the guidance. Most of the time, we are rejecting the guidance. We are not saying yes. I can't. I won't. This is not my cup of tea. I am not capable of doing it. These are the words that we are constantly using. The point here is that the more we say yes to what is happening, the better off ultimately we will be. Okay, so it's very, very important. And see, I've seen this in my own life. One thing has led to the other, provided that I have said yes, the experience that is manifesting in my life. Okay, so again, there is this movie called Yes Man. I don't know how many of you have seen it, but in that, he is constantly saying no first. And then he attends a seminar and he starts saying yes. And things really start moving in his life. Okay. So we have to say yes to life. We cannot reject what life is giving us.
Bhaiya, what
Exercise,
is the name of the movie?
Yes, man.
Yes, Man. M-A-N.
Yes.
Okay.
exercise to see the universal life energy fields. The easiest way to begin to observe the universal energy field is to simply relax on your back in the grass on a nice sunny day and gaze at the blue sky. After some time, you will be able to see the tiny globules of orgone making squiggly patterns against the blue sky. They seem to be tiny white balls, sometimes with a black spot that appear for a second or two, leave a slight trail mark, and then disappear again. When you continue this observation and expand your vision, you will begin to see that the whole field pulsates in a synchronized rhythm. On sunny days, these tiny balls of energy will be bright and move fast. On cloudy days, they will be more translucent, move slowly, and be fewer in number. In a smoggy city, they are fewer, dark, and very slow moving. They are undercharged. The most abundant and most brightly charged globules I observed were in the Swiss Alps, where there are many bright sunny days and the snow covers everything in thick drifts. Apparently, sunlight charges the globules.
Okay, so now these globules can be observed when you're flying also. If you look out from the window of an aircraft, you will find these squiggly things, exactly the way she's describing it, around over there. They'll be moving around inside. Okay, many times you'll feel as if they're inside the two. There are always two glass things in the window of the aircraft, as if they are moving around inside that. But actually, they are moving around all over the place. Now, today we focus a lot on getting energy through food, right? But let me tell you, we get maximum of our energy through breathing. And that energy comes from these globules that we are breathing in and taking in that energy. This is how people can survive without eating food. We had this one gentleman come and give a talk also, the breathmen, right? They are just, they survive on just breathing. They have not been eating for years. In fact, there was a video also of one person who's 100 and something years old, and he hasn't eaten for the last few decades. He's only surviving on breath. So we can actually survive just on breathing, because the prana, these globules are also prana. She calls it over here orgone energy, but this is also the pranmaya shakti, which we are being able to take into our system just from the act of breathing.
Now shift your gaze to the edge of treetops against the blue sky. You may see a green haze around the trees. Curiously, you may also notice that there are no globules in this haze. But if you look closer, you will see the globules at the edge of the green haze changing their squiggly pattern and flowing into the aura of the tree, where they disappear. Apparently, the tree's aura is absorbing the tiny globules. The green around the tree appears in the leafing stage during spring and summer. Earlier in the spring, the aura of most trees has a pink reddish hue, similar to the color of the red buds of the trees. If you look closely at a house plant, you will see a similar phenomenon. Put the plant under bright lights with a dark background behind it. You may see lines of blue-green flashing up the plant along the leaves in the direction of growth. They will suddenly flash, then the color slowly fades only to flash again, perhaps on the opposite side of the plant. These lines will react to your hand or a piece of crystal if you bring them near the aura of the plant. As you draw the crystal away from the plant, you will see the aura of the plant and the aura of the crystal stretch to maintain contact. They pull like taffy.
So again, the energy is being absorbed by the trees. The energy is being absorbed by even inanimate objects. You'll be able to see this haze around them, and even inanimate objects, so-called inanimate objects, have a life force. They are also absorbing energy. Of course, a living creature absorbs more energy, but even the inanimate objects absorb energy. So you can see this field literally around anything. And now, of course, we can photograph it also.
I once tried to see the phantom leaf effect, which is so widely talked about in Kirlian photography.
So what is the phantom leaf effect? What was seen was, and there is something called the phantom limb effect also. So when someone breaks their hand or the hand is chopped off, they still get a sensation. Like now, suppose the hand is chopped off from here, no hand is here, right? But they'll say, I'm feeling itchy on my index finger. Now the index finger is not there, but they're feeling itchy there. When they scratch the nerve on the stump of the hand over here, that itch will go away, right? So this is called the phantom limb. Like that, this was actually discovered in Kirlian photography, where they had the phantom leaf effect, which actually proved that the energy field exists before the physical matter comes into existence. How it was done was that a plate was there, a photographic paper was placed on the plate, an object was placed on top, and a picture was a high amperage, high voltage, low amperage current is passed through the plate, which creates a coronal discharge. That discharge, because of coronal discharge of the object which is there on the plate, creates that discharge. And since it's on a photographic paper, it used to come as a picture, which is the scene that we'll be seeing, the picture that you're seeing, right? So a leaf will form in the photographic paper.
Through the methods of Kirlian photography, people have been able to photograph an image of an entire leaf after half of it was cut away. I observed the aura of the leaf. It was a simple aqua blue. When I cut the leaf, the aura of the entire leaf turned a bloody maroon. I recoiled and apologized to the plant.
So now she is being able to see the colors of the aura with her naked eyes. Now, when the plant is hurt, automatically the plant reacted from being blue, a blue aura into a red aura. And then she apologized to the plant, right? Now, this is something that was followed in Ayurveda also, where if they wanted to take something for the plant for medicine, the system was that you go and tell the plant a few days before that on such and such a day, I will be coming to take this part of you to make this medicine for this person. And then on that designated day, on the designated time, the Ayurveda practitioner went and prayed to the tree or the plant before taking that part to make the medicine. Now, because they were doing that, the plant has consciousness. So the plant was putting into that part that was going to be taken what was required. Okay, that was the basic intent, right? I don't know what used to happen, but that was the intent, that the medicine became more potent when that was done. Okay, so over here you can see that when the leaf was cut, it became from blue into maroon. So the plant has feeling.
When the aqua blue color re-established itself in a minute or two, it showed definite signs of the missing part, but not as clearly as I have seen on the Kirlian photographs.
So when the plant was cut, right, the leaf was full, it was a blue aura, then it was cut, that small part of the leaf which was cut, Shipya, you can point to it, that was cut up. Okay, the aura became red, and then after some time it reverted to blue, but the energy field of that cut part still remained to a certain extent.
Inanimate objects also have an aura. Most personal objects become imbued with the energy of the owner and radiate this energy. Gems and crystals show interesting auras with many layered and complicated patterns that can be used in healing. For example, the amethyst has a golden aura with golden rays streaking out from its naturally faceted points.
So again, inanimate objects also have an aura. They have an energy field. And there is something called impregnation, where they absorb the energy field of the owners, people who are using them. We've spoken about psychometry, where the person who knows psychometry and can sense the fields can tell you exactly who has been using the object for how long and what their energy situation was, right? And that's why the crystals, they have energy and power because they are very systematic, right? The molecular structure is systematic. So because of that, they can radiate more energy and more power, right? So that's why we wear these stones and all that also for various planetary positions and all that. We talk more about this in the Vastu and Energy Field workshop, where we can actually test which stone is working for you and which one is not working for you.
Characteristics of the universal energy field. As stated in Chapter 5, the UEF or universal energy field has been known and observed throughout the ages. It has been studied as far back in history as we are able to reach. Each culture had a different name for the energy field phenomenon and looked at it from its particular viewpoint. When describing what it saw, each culture found similar basic properties in the UEF. As time progressed and the scientific method was developed, Western culture began to investigate the UEF more rigorously. As the state of the art of our scientific equipment becomes more sophisticated, we are able to measure finer qualities of the UEF. From these investigations, we can surmise that the UEF is probably composed of an energy previously undefined by Western science, or possibly a matter of a finer substance than we generally considered matter to be. If we define matter as condensed energy, the UEF may exist between the presently considered realm of matter and that of energy. As we have seen, some scientists refer to the phenomenon of the UEF as bioplasma.
So again, the aura, the energy field is there in all cultures. In India, it was called prana, right? In China, it was called the chi. In Japan, it was called the ki. So like that, all cultures have some name for this field. And people who are going into these higher states of consciousness, they could actually perceive it, they could see it. And this was happening in all cultures. So they all created their way of describing it. Of course, our scientific equipment is still catching up to what was being perceived by these people in higher states of consciousness. Of course, now we've got a lot of technology working and looking at this stuff.
Dr. John White and Dr. Stanley Krippner list many properties of the universal energy field. The UEF permeates all space, animate and inanimate objects, and connects all objects to each other. It flows from one object to another, and its density varies inversely with the distance from its source. It also follows the laws of harmonic inductance and sympathetic resonance, the phenomenon that occurs when you strike a tuning fork and one near it will begin to vibrate at the same frequency, giving off the same sound.
So again, the UEF is everywhere. It is around as well as it interpenetrates everything that is there. Okay. Now, as you go further from an object, the field becomes finer and finer and finer, but it goes to infinity. Okay. Now, they talk about harmonic induction and sympathetic resonance. So we've said that if this rubber is vibrating at the frequency of my heart, it will start to affect my heart and my heart will affect it. So that is what is sympathetic resonance. Harmonic resonance means that if I have a string and I'm clicking it and it is vibrating at a particular frequency, if I make it half, right, it is the harmonic of this frequency. It's exactly half. If I double this, again, it's a harmonic of this. So they will keep vibrating. This you can see in this phenomenon in a piano, right? Where you have the 7 keys. So you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So when you press G here, all the G's, every 7th wire will start to vibrate. If you ever come in contact with a grand piano, just lift the cover and then strike one key, and you'll see that every 7th wire will start to automatically vibrate. This is what is called harmonic or sympathetic vibration.
Visual observations reveal the field to be highly organized in a series of geometric points, isolated pulsating points of light, spirals, webs of lines, sparks, and clouds. It pulsates and can be sensed by touch, taste, smell, and with sound and luminosity perceivable to the higher senses.
So again, as we raise our level of consciousness, as we raise our levels of perception, these fields can be sensed by us, by all our senses, right? So it has a, you can see it, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can feel it, right? You can hear it. Many people actually hear the pulsation, okay? And also it can come as a field effect. It can come as a point of light. It can come as a pulsating point of or vibratory frequency. You can see it as a pulsation around things which are around us, right? But at the end of the day, to perceive it, we need to raise our level of consciousness.
Investigators of this field state that the UEF is basically synergistic, meaning the simultaneous action of separate agencies that together have greater total effect than the sum of their individual effects. This field is the opposite of entropy, a term used to describe the phenomenon of the slow decay that we so commonly observe in physical reality, the breaking down of form and order.
Right. So we've been talking about entropy in all the workshops. So what is entropy? Whenever there is a higher disorganization in any situation or in anything, that means it has a higher entropical state, right? Now, when we are looking at order, whenever there is more order, it is the opposite end of entropy. So the more we are organized, the more we are centered, the more everything around us will also get centered. And what is the idea of going into higher states of consciousness? Because in higher states of consciousness, the order is more organized than in lower states of consciousness. Okay, basically, that is the idea. And the more organization there is, the better everything is. So the higher the entropy, the more the disorganization. The less the entropy, the more the organization, and you are in a higher state of consciousness.
The hef has an organizing effect on matter and builds forms. It appears to exist in more than 3 dimensions. Any changes in the material world are preceded by a change in this field.
So now this is very important, right? It says here, the human energy field, that's hef, has an organizing effect on matter and builds form. So the form, the physical form that we normally are observing is actually coming from this etheric form, or this form which is created in the energy field. And that field comes to become the physical form. Now, if there is any change in the physical form, it is first observed in the human energy field, which allows the change to happen in the physical thing that we are normally observing in the 3D environment that we live in.
The UEF is always associated with some form of consciousness, ranging from highly developed to very primitive.
So UEF is the universal energy field, right? And it is absolutely working in conjunction with, or is maybe the result of, consciousness and conscious awareness. So you will observe it from the level of consciousness that you are operating at.
The highly developed consciousness is associated with the higher vibrations and energy levels. Thus, we see that in some way, the UEF is not so different from everything else we know in nature. However, it causes us to reach out with our minds to understand all of the properties that it has. On some levels, it is a normal thing like salt or a stone. It has properties that we can define with normal scientific methods. On the other hand, if we continue to probe deeper into its nature, it evades the normal scientific explanations. It becomes elusive. We think we have put it in its place, along with electricity and not so unusual phenomenon. But then it slips out of the hand again and causes us to think, what is it really? But then, what is electricity anyway?
So again, the HEF is actually beyond our normal comprehension, and its properties are still being investigated. We do not have 100% information about what it is, right? We don't have 100% information about anything that is. But here this becomes very elusive, because again, it can act like a wave and a particle at the same time. It can be here and there at the same time. It can act at a distance. Now, how it does that, why it does that, is again something which is beyond our comprehension.
The UEF exists in more than 3 dimensions. What does that mean? It is synergistic and builds form. That is against the second law of thermodynamics, which states that entropy is always increasing, which says that disorder in the universe is always increasing and that you cannot get more energy out of something than you put in. You always get a little less energy out of something than you put in. A perpetual motion machine has never been built.
Okay, so what is a perpetual motion machine? You have those balls, when 1, 2, 3, 4 balls are there, and they go tick, 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 tick all the time. So that's like a perpetual motion machine. But it will stop at some point of time because of the resistance of the air and the loss of energy in the making of the sound. So the movement will stop. So what he's saying is that a perpetual motion machine has never been built because there is always a loss of energy. And what it's saying here is that everything is going towards an ultimate destruction. That is, entropy is always there in everything. But having said that, when we come into the higher states of consciousness and we are working with these energy fields, something can come out of nothing, right? That is something that the scientists have still not been able to put a finger on. They found when they are going into experiments with quarks, etc., the quarks appear from nowhere and they go away nowhere. And they don't know where they go and where they come from. So it becomes very important to understand that the universal energy field operates in systems which is beyond our comprehension with our current level of scientific discovery. Basically, that's it. The instruments have not been made yet to be able to measure that field in its total complexity.
That is not the case with the UEF. It seems that it is always continuing to create more energy. Like the cornucopia, it always remains filled, no matter how much you take from it. These are exciting concepts and give us a very hopeful view of the future, as we risk sinking deeper into the pessimism of the nuclear age. Perhaps someday we will be able to build a machine that can tap into the energy of the UEF and have all the energy we need without the threat of harming ourselves.
So if we can tap into this field, which is constantly creating more energy, then we will never be out of energy. This is something that Nikola Tesla had done, and his lab was burnt down. He actually created equipment which would gather electricity from the atmosphere. Okay. Now, since the atmosphere electricity is free, there was no money to be made out of it. So ultimately, his lab was burned. Okay, so he really did a great job, Nikola Tesla. But then, of course, anything that doesn't make money, the things that make money and people who are making that money get after those people to get rid of that option where you can get something for free.
Chapter 6 review.
So,
what is an aura?
Sure.
Does it have an aura? What does not have an aura? And describe the UEF.
So again, you all can do this exercise if you want.
The human energy field or human aura. The human energy field is the manifestation of universal energy that is intimately involved with human life. It can be described as a luminous body that surrounds and interpenetrates the physical body, emits its own characteristic radiation, and is usually called the aura. The aura is that part of the UEF associated with objects. The human aura or human energy field is that part of the UEF associated with the human body.
So again, we are talking about the human energy field, and it is a subset of the universal energy field.
Based on their observations, researchers have created theoretical models that divide the aura into several layers. These layers are sometimes called bodies, and they interpenetrate and surround each other in successive layers. Each succeeding body is composed of finer substances and higher vibrations than the body that it surrounds and interpenetrates.
So the aura basically is like the Russian dolls. You have the smallest doll, and then you have bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger dolls, and every doll is within the other doll, and it interpenetrates it. So it's not the external layer goes through the entire layers. It's not considered separate.
Exercise to see the human aura. The easiest way to start to sense the heft is through the following exercises. If you are in a group of people, make a circle and hold hands. Allow the energy of your auric field to flow around the circle. Sense this pulsating flow for a while. Which way is it going? Do they correlate? Now, without changing...
Okay, so now what are you doing? You can move your energy field with intent, which is something that we are doing when we are using the reborn. We are not using this, our field. We are using the universal consciousness. We are using the universal field to send energy from anyone to anyone, right? And for a particular purpose. So we can use it with intent.
Now, without changing anything or moving your hands, stop the flow of energy. Keep it stopped for a while, everyone at once, and then let it flow again. Try it again. Can you feel the difference?
So again, basically you are moving the energy with intent in one way, then you're stopping it, then you're moving it the other way. So you can get a feel for it. You can feel how the energy is shifting.
Which do you like better? Now, do the same with a partner. Sit opposite each other, touching palms together. Let the energy flow naturally. Which way does it go? Send energy out your left palm, then allow it to come into your right. Reverse. Now stop the flow. Next, try pushing it out both hands at once. Now, suck it in both hands at once. Push, pull, and stop. are three basic ways to manipulating energy in healing. Practice.
So what is it? You can push energy, you can suck energy, you can stop energy. So basically, these are the three ways in which you can use the energy.
Now, drop hands. Hold your palms about 2 to 5 inches apart. Slowly move your hands back and forth, decreasing and increasing the space between them. Build something up between your hands. Can you feel it? What does it feel like? Now, take your hands further apart, about 8 to 10 inches. Then, slowly bring them back together until you feel a pressure pushing your hands out, so that you have to use just a slight amount more force to bring your hands together.
So now this is a thing that we do in all excursion workshops and also in the energy field workshop. You can do it right now. Just press the fingertips. Everyone press your fingertips. And then keeping your hands about 2 inches apart, start rotating it slowly. You should start feeling a tingling or a sensation between your palms. And then you can start, like it said in the book, you can start bringing your palms slowly together and you'll start feeling a pressure between your palms. Okay, so this is your human energy field. Shikra, you're muted.
You have now touched the edges of one of your energy bodies together. If your hands are 1 to 1.25 inches apart, you have touched your etheric body, edges together, the first layer of the aura. If your hands are 3 to 4 inches apart, you have touched the outer edges of your emotional body together, the second layer of the aura. Now, very carefully move your hands closer until you can actually feel the outside edge of your emotional body or energy field of your right hand touch your skin of your left hand. Move your right palm about 1 inch closer to your left palm. Feel the tingling on the back of your left hand as the edge of your energy field touches it. The energy field of your right hand went right through the left hand.
Okay, so what does this imply? Let me tell you. Let us say I have this object over here. Okay, now with the antenna, we can actually sense various layers of the field of this object. And when I test with the antenna, on the first layer, it will react with one dip. When I go to the second one, it will react with 2 dips. When I go to the third one, it will react with 3 dips. When I go to the fourth one, it will react with 5 dips. So these are the fields of the aura which are there. Likewise, the human energy field also has these layers, and each of them is connected with a certain aspect of our system, whether it's the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, etc., etc. We'll be coming to that in the thing. So for now, it's very important to understand that each layer of the aura is also dealing with a certain aspect of your life. So I'm going one step ahead, but if we are having a problem and it is coming from the 7th layer of your aura, and you're attempting to deal with it with tools which are operating at the first layer of the aura, this problem is not going to get solved. So to be able to heal or to be able to sort out a problem, one of the important things to know is that which level of the aura is it coming from, and then sort it out over there rather than doing a general sort out. A general sort out will also work. But if you can specifically tune in to that particular layer, it will become more effective. Your clearing will become more effective.
Now, take your hands apart again and hold them at a distance of about 7 inches. Point your right index finger at the palm of your left hand, making sure the fingertip is about 1/2 to 1 inch away from the palm. Now, draw circles on your palms. What do you feel? Does it tickle? What is it?
So like this, right? You can actually feel the energy when you do it. Yeah, see over here, I'm feeling it from here. So it's about 1.5 inches apart. Like that, you can actually come to the level. So there's another field over here, which I'm feeling. I can go further apart. There's another one over here, right? So like that, you can actually sense where are the layers of the aura, which I was telling you. We can do it with the antenna. We can do it with the pendulum also.
With the light dim in the room, hold your hand so that the tips of the fingers point toward each other. Hold your hands in front of your face at a distance of about 2 feet. Make sure there is a plain white wall for a background. Relax your eyes and softly gaze at the space between your fingertips, which should be about 1.5 inches apart. Do not look into bright light. Let your eyes relax. What do you see? Move your fingertips closer and then further apart. What is happening in the space between the fingers? What do you see around the hand? Slowly move one hand up and the other hand down so that different fingers are pointing to each other. What has happened now? About 95% of the people who try this exercise do see something. Everyone feels something. For the answers to the above questions, refer to the end of the chapter.
Okay, so now what? We do this experiment again in the Vastu class, right? So you put your hands like this, and I told you that you have to do it against a white background. So when you do this and you defocus your eyes, you see about 6 inches behind, you will see light coming out from each of the palms. And when you shift the palm, the fingers like this, they'll keep connecting and then they'll disconnect and connect with the other one. So you can actually see it happening. Okay, you all can actually experiment. A nice way to do it is to look at the sky, the blue sky through these hands, right? Keep the hands about 2 feet away from you. Focus your eyesight about 6 inches behind and you'll all see the haze. Let me tell you, 99% of the people in the workshops see it.
After you practice these exercises and the ones in chapter 9 on observing other people's auras, you may begin to see the first few layers of the aura as shown in figure 7, 1a. Later, after you are used to seeing the lower layers, you can practice the higher sense perception exercises as described in chapter 17, 18, and 19. With more opening in your third eye, your sixth chakra, you will begin to see the higher levels of the aura. Now that most of you have felt, seen, and experienced the lower levels of the aura, let us go on to describe them. The anatomy of the aura. There are many systems that people have created from their observations to define the auric field. All these systems divide the aura into layers and define the layers by locations, color, brightness, form, density, fluidity, and function. Each system is geared to the kind of work the individual is doing with the aura. The two systems most similar to mine are the ones used by Jack Schwartz, which has more than 7 layers and is described in his book, Human Energy Systems, and the system used by Reverend Rosalind Ruyer of the Healing Light Center in Glendale, California. Her system is a 7-layer system and is described in her book, Wheels of Light, a study of the chakras.
So again, everyone perceives them a little differently. But having said that, there is similarity in that particular perception.
The 7 layers of the auric field. I have observed 7 layers during my work as a counselor and a healer. At first, I could only see the lower layers, which are the most dense and easiest to see.
So in this, actually, what happens is that literally everyone can see the first layer. Okay. It's extremely easy to see it. This experiment will show you what you're seeing in this experiment is the first layer. But of course, with practice, you can go deeper.
The longer I worked, the more layers I could perceive. The higher the layer, the more expanded my consciousness needed to be to perceive it. That is, in order to perceive the higher layers, like the fifth, sixth, and seventh, I would have to enter into a meditative state, usually with eyes closed. After years of practice, I even began to see beyond the seventh layer, as I will discuss briefly at the end of this chapter. My observations of the aura revealed to me an interesting dualistic field pattern. Every other layer of the field is highly structured, like standing waves of light patterns, while the layers in between appear to be composed of colored fluids in constant motion. These fluids flow through the form set by the shimmering standing light waves. The direction of flow is somewhat governed by the standing light form, since the fluid flows along the standing lines of light. The standing forms of light are themselves scintillating, as if they are composed of strings of many tiny, rapidly blinking lights, each blinking at a different rate. These standing light lines appear to have tiny charges moving along them.
So again, there is structure and destructure, structure and destructure, because growth comes out of something which is unstructured. Because if it is structured, then where is the growth, right? So there is a play, the yin and the yang, there's constant play between solid and liquid, or whatever you could call it, from the kinetic to the potential.
Thus, the first, third, fifth, and seventh layers all have a definite structure, while the second, fourth, and sixth are composed of a fluid-like substances that have no particular structure. They take on form by virtue of the fact that they flow through the structure of the odd layers and thus somewhat take on the form of the structured layers. Each succeeding layer interpenetrates completely all the layers under it, including the physical body. Thus, the emotional body extends beyond the etheric body and includes both the etheric and physical bodies. Actually, each body is not a layer at all, although that is what we may perceive. It is rather a more expansive version of ourself that carries within it the other more limited forms.
So again, like Russian dolls.
From the point of view of the scientist, each layer can be considered to be a level of higher vibrations occupying the same space as the levels of vibrations below it and extending beyond. In order to perceive each consecutive level, the observer must move up in consciousness to each new frequency level.
So again, if you're not vibrating at a particular frequency or you're not resonating with it, you are not going to be able to perceive it. So to perceive something, you have to be vibrating at that level of consciousness or perception.
Thus, we have seen 7 bodies all occupying the same space at the same time, each extending out beyond the last, something we are not used to in normal daily life. Many people erroneously assume that the aura is like an onion, where you can peel away consecutive layers, but it is not. The structured layers contain all the forms that the physical body has, including internal organs, blood vessels, etc., and additional forms that the physical body does not contain. There is a vertical flow of energy that pulsates up and down the field in the spinal cord. It extends out beyond the physical body and above the head and below the coccyx. I call this the main vertical power current. There are swirling cone-shaped vortexes called chakras in the field. Their tips point into the main vertical power current, and their open ends extend to the edges of each layer of the field that they are located in.
Okay, so what does this mean? Right, there is a central channel through which everything flows. So when we are looking at the axis system, when I'm checking the axis with the antenna, we are actually testing the central flow, whether it is aligned or it is not aligned. If it is not aligned, naturally the flow of energy in the system will get affected. Now, she's mentioned the chakras here. Each of the chakras is a vibrating vortex of energy, and it is vibrating at a particular frequency, and it interacts with the environment through that frequency. Now, the chakra starts in the physical layer, but it interpenetrates all the layers. So every layer in the field will have the same chakra, right? Again, harmonics will start to play a part in this. So what will resonate at the 7th layer is at a lower frequency of vibration at the first layer, but they are in harmonic resonance with each other. Okay, I think we can stop here today because it's going into a new this thing. We won't be able to complete this field. Right? Anyone, anything to say or add?